The year.
Hang on. It's 5, 4, 3.
I already thought of this.
2, 1.
The year is 2014. And The
Okay.
Simpsons and The Family Guy have their first crossover ever.
Yeah.
I don't want to puff all of us up and fluff and make everybody real horny, but this might be the crossover that people have been waiting for. This might be it right here.
This might be the biggest event
In events history.
in events history.
Since the Big Bang Theory. Not the
we
show.
were talking, like, we weren't going to say that, but we were thinking the exact same thing before we got started here.
Yeah.
We're crossing over with the probably longest tenured, most Cal Ripken-like portmanteau titled fitness podcast in history.
What?
Portmanteau. When you take two words and put them together.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
It's a mass and
money?
And economics.
What's economics mean?
You said Cal Ripken. That's a pretty positive spin on it. We a lot of times like to think of ourselves as cockroaches because we won't go away no matter how much we should probably.
Yeah, the Twinkies.
Just hanging on. Yeah.
We enjoy any word that has the word cock in it, so we're good.
The only issue with my reference is I think we're the Simpsons in this.
Possibly.
And I here's a hot take.
yeah.
Here's your over-under. I don't really like The Simpsons. I don't really like it.
Overrated or underrated?
I would say it's overrated.
Yeah, super overrated.
I like Family Guy, although that's probably also overrated. I like it.
I got finished with Family Guy, as
Yeah.
in like when they maybe the year after they came back, I was done.
But how good is the Star Wars one?
It's good.
It's pretty good.
There's two of them.
Yeah, I think there's multiple.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. So we have the boys from the north, and we're going over maybe talk about overrated, underrated. Probably the most underrated Iron film, in my personal opinion, just based on everyone I've talked to never seeing it. You know what I mean? Like, even though I was surprised, we did Pumping Iron a couple weeks ago with our buddy Dean, and there was some, like, I think they might even be pro. I don't want to call anybody out, but they might even be pro bodybuilders and high-level powerlifters that I know personally that had never seen Pumping Iron. And I was like, whoa. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, 70, 77.
Sure, but
yeah.
I turned like 17, 18, became a meathead. I just started YouTubing and Googling every documentary ever. I watched Ronnie Coleman eat chicken for half an hour. Like, you watch everything that you're into. And this movie, Power Unlimited, which is local to Jim and I, Jim's in it, we heard is a favorite of yours. And I want to ask, boys, before we hop into it, when's the last time you actually watched it front to back?
Last night.
Yes, last night, this morning. Yeah.
Same.
But that's cheating because
Outside of that, yeah, we have a feature movie at the gym that is on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and this has probably been the feature for the last month or two, I think.
yeah, we've rotated between West Side versus the World, of course, probably maybe something you guys would look at again in the future. Pumping Iron, of course, and then Born Strong, which is the one that follows like Sojourner Savickas, Eddie Hall, Half Thor, those four guys when they go through Strongman. Those are the kind of the ones that we rotate. Power Unlimited is actually the newest that we got to the collection, and a hilarious story about how we got the movie Power Unlimited.
And I think this is worth saying for maybe why, the video's on YouTube. That's where I watched it last night.
Yeah.
But maybe this is why enough people haven't heard of it is because of this story right here.
Yeah, so we needed a DVD copy of it because in Massenomics gym, all we have is a DVD player there. We have pretty antiquated technology for the gym
internet
television.
Just no internet anywhere to be found.
No internet. Not much internet in South Dakota to begin with. So we stretch ourselves.
You got to
thin.
do what you can.
Yeah. But we needed a DVD copy. We knew it was on YouTube, but that didn't do us any good. So one of the gym members reached out to Gabe through Instagram and said, "We really need a DVD copy of this. How do we get it?" He said, "Well, I think I've got a case of them like up in my attic. Let me check it out." And he got back eventually and said, "Yeah, I'll send you a couple."
That's dope.
And he just sent them over, and that's how we got them. We had to go to the source.
So like a lot of movies, you get it by asking the creator, and they send you one
and
from
they
the
send
personal
you
collection.
That's how I got Star Wars 1.
Yeah, exactly.
Very
Yeah.
similar
Hey,
story.
Mr.
Lucas. Yeah.
He's local. He's just a couple hours away. Called him up.
He grew up in Modesto.
Yeah, and I think he still lives in like Marin-ish.
Yeah.
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 I actually saw Gabe probably within the last 3 years, I think.
Really?
He was at our friend Alan Thrall's gym for an event of some nature. I saw him stomping
because he
around.
does strongman. Yeah. So for a while, I actually handled online sales of that film under a previous regime. And the real story there, though, why Gabe has so many copies, is that before this film was finished, like after the photography was done, but when the editing was still in process, this film got stolen from him.
The
Got
original?
literally taken away from him. His editor and two of the financial backers. I will not be sworn. This is not sworn testimony. This is my memory, so anything could be wrong with this.
This is not financial advice.
This is not financial advice. Yes, yes. Check with your doctor before you take any of this.
Yes.
as
50% facts.
as gospel. However, he lost control over it, and they apparently thought they had some distribution deals ready to go and stuff like that, and they couldn't do anything with it because it was taken away from them. And there was a lawsuit, and it took a while to settle the lawsuit. And part of the settlement, I don't think there was necessarily very much money involved, but like he got all the copies for free. And
and then what do you do?
And then what do you do? Yeah,
Sell them out the back of your Lincoln.
Yeah, so we
in the parking lot.
We helped out selling those things. But I also saw this film in a theater. It was played like one time at
Crest?
the Crest, yeah, downstairs at the Crest, which is now a restaurant.
I've played at the Crest. Professional drummer.
There you go.
Fun fact for you, ladies and gentlemen.
Why is it a trend of powerlifting documentaries? Because West Side versus the World, I don't remember the exact story, but there was issues there. Why in the field of powerlifting documentaries, where there's almost presumably no money involved,
Are the films getting hijacked?
so coveted that
So you want the real answer?
Released?
I'll go before Jim, because Jim's might be... Just because everyone's a piece of shit. I was listening to... I love my boy Jordan Shallow. I don't know if you guys are familiar, the muscle doc. And he was doing a Q&A yesterday or the day before. I don't know. Someday I was listening, and people asked, I forgot what the exact question was, but something about like pettiness or rudeness or like pretentiousness or selfishness in powerlifting or drama, I think.
Yeah.
Drama. And he was super like political about it, which isn't very Jordan-esque. And he said, well, I just think humans, kind of tend to do that when they don't have a lot of things to accomplish in their own life. They cause drama and this and that. And I'm like, dude, you're fucking wrong. Like, yes, people are pieces of shit everywhere. And yes, people cause drama everywhere.
Yeah.
But like, we're in this niche weird sport within a niche of industry of fitness, which is the most narcissistic, self-absorbed niche of all niches.
Okay.
Like, you can say, oh, LeBron James is all about him. He's not. He's trying to win a championship. He has 5. Like, he's just not as bad as the number one what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And then you add in YouTube, or you add in Instagram, or you add in a documentary where maybe you can make $100, and these people talk about acting like cockroaches. They just come out for their own. That's my honest answer. And I would love a psychologist, and I've talked to my own therapist plenty of times on it, but to analyze. But I think it's like less than 5% of the world's like has narcissistic personality disorder.
Mm-hmm.
But in our world, Instagram, YouTube of fitness, that has to
It's a
rise.
high concentration.
It's got to be 20-30%.
Yeah, you can't swing a dead cat without hitting
And
a
I'm talking,
narcissist.
I'm talking disorder. Like,
But if you're gonna swing a dead cat, they're pretty good targets. So.
yeah, so that would be my guess. And there is some money to be made. That's another thing too. Is like, I don't. You guys don't have to, let out your finances here at Massenomics, but it seems like you guys are doing well. Like, are you guys buying a jet plane? Maybe not, but a little creativity. a little hard
put
work.
Another pool in, and you can only use a pool, like a couple months of the year here. So
you're balling.
If that tells you anything.
So that tells you something.
Yeah. I mean, like, honestly though, like, and that's a hat tip to you guys. Jim told me earlier that you guys literally didn't take a week off for 5 years of podcasting. That's impressive. That's really impressive. Me and Jim have been doing this silly thing for, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 years now, and we've taken plenty of weeks off, and more recently, like 6 months off, because you can say
6 weeks.
6 weeks. That's
6
it.
weeks. Yeah.
Oh fuck. Dude. I don't even know what's going on.
But we did some repeats along the way.
Yeah, but
when we were working.
Point is, that's difficult,
Yeah.
and it takes work.
Right.
And if you do put in the work, and this sounds cliche, Tony Robbins bullshit, but you can make some successes. And so anyone with a hair of self-absorption is just trying to leech and buy DVDs of a geared powerlifting documentary.
Yeah, no, the West Side versus the World story is the guy embezzled the money. That was, his partner that he got stuck with because West Side asked him to work with the guy, embezzled the money, and then became a international fugitive. And yeah, it was like, that was a rare circumstance, I think. I hope. I don't know. We'll see what Michael does next and whether it's a rare circumstance. But
so I watched this movie last night as well, with my Twitch chat live, and what I found interesting is that it's what's so normal to me because of where I grew up in powerlifting, all the geared lifting, all kind of the personalities, kind of the danger that dude getting bashed in the head.
Yeah.
Not that that's happened at every meet, not that that's super normal. I think even Cartwright says in that film, I've never seen someone actually get dragged off on a stretcher.
oh yeah,
I've seen people get jacked up, and so have I. Especially this recent viral video. You guys see that guy's pec that ends up in his throat?
Ooh, yeah.
Holy shit.
Doing the incline bench on the negative and it just curls up on him.
So we've seen all this, and that's all painful, whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, you're not getting drawn away on a stretcher. We've seen some close calls. Maybe one. We saw a dude lose a finger, I think.
yeah.
But whatever.
Lose part of a finger. Yeah.
All that, it really is kind of hardcore. And then compare it to if you just got into powerlifting in 2019 and you see, nicely ironed and freshened singlets made by SBD, perhaps.
Yeah.
Maybe you have really nice clean socks on. You're checking the wind temperature and the fucking humidity before you hook grip a stiff bar. The culture has changed.
Yeah.
In what we do. And I know you guys have been around for a while, but what was your guys' first taste maybe in powerlifting? Was watching this movie kind of a shock to you, or is that kind of the powerlifting you know?
I guess I had seen clips of this video or of this movie on YouTube. When you first start getting into powerlifting, when I got in around 2010 or started to be interested, that's when you see the Kurt Kowalski videos of throwing the
You've
plate
got
up
5
the squat
minutes
rack.
left.
That whole thing. I never realized that was from this movie. So parts of this movie are like things I feel like that have been ingrained in you as a powerlifter from day one. If you spent any.
Uh-oh. Hello.
We lost our South Dakota internet.
Oh, no.
South Dakota.
Oh,
And they're back.
South
Still there?
Dakota. We lost you.
Okay. We were talking. It's like, wow, this must be really profound. We're
They
not
are
getting
not
much of a
moving.
response from them.
It just blew my mind.
So where do we lose you guys at?
That these videos were a little bit more iconic. You started in about 2010 with your journey.
Yeah.
So you're running across the Kurt videos, early fitness YouTube, the Captain Kirk videos of the squat rack throwing the plate. Like those were videos I feel like a lot of people probably came across on YouTube. But other than that, a lot of the attitudes and the feelings about things, I feel like have kind of moved on and changed in powerlifting in general since then.
Yeah, as I watch it now, it's hard for me to remember what I felt like the first few times I saw clips of this. But as I watch it now and how I relate it to what powerlifting is like to me today, it's certainly dated, of course. It's the equipped lifting.
Guys, the body mass
the body types of who's competitive.
Like the type of weight you had to put on to deadlift 700 pounds then is way different than, I guess, like USAPL Raw Nationals. Everyone's deadlifting 700 pounds at 183 pounds. Like it just seems like, okay, things have changed completely there.
And also the mentality side of it too. And not saying it's everyone in the video and not saying that everyone is different than this today, but the way we look at it, we powerlift because it's fun, and like all the stuff we do, it's because it's kind of fun. And I know you probably look at that from a similar perspective as we do.
It's good. It's fun to hang out with the guys at the gym, blow a little stress off.
Right. So we don't come at it from like the do or die mentality.
Right.
So that's always different. But I know there's people like that are still like that today. But I think that's evolved more away from that over the last decade plus.
Yeah, I think that's really true. The first time that I saw this whole movie, though, was in the theater. That one time that we saw it, and it was very much like it's kind of like a home movie in a lot of ways. You know, it's like because you like know all the people in it or most of them, and and like I'm in it a little bit. The
Cubby Bear.
Yeah.
Has that nickname stuck around, or was that like of that era?
I stuck around for a good while.
I don't associate with anyone who's still anymore.
But yeah,
who
but it
still
was
does
around.
use
It
that,
was
but it
around.
was around until
now it's Jimbo. We call him. We just made that up when we were delirious in 110-degree weather, painting toxins in the walls here. Now it's Jimbo.
Yeah, no, I haven't encountered.
I'm going to cross off Cubby Bear then and write Jimbo.
Yeah, there you go. I haven't had anyone call me that since say January of 2018.
Okay.
So anyway, our reaction to it was like, wow, that's really cool, because it was a feature length thing that included a bunch of people that we knew, and at the time, Bigger, Stronger, Faster started shooting the same time as this film.
Yeah, when's this come out? 2007-ish, and Bigger, Stronger, Faster 2008-9, something like that.
2000, yeah. Like that, It took longer.
The production quality between the two of those is very different.
Yeah,
because I wouldn't have said that off the top of my head, because Bigger, Faster, Stronger just seems like the production is so much slicker on that compared to this
probably
one.
just money, I would assume.
Well, part of it too, and Bigger, Stronger, Faster was shot by a professional.
Yeah.
And it was edited by. There was input from the. One of the executive producers of Michael Moore's films. Oh, we just lost you
South
again.
Dakota.
They still show up as being there, but
Not issues of any.
Can you hear us?
and you're back.
Oh, yes. There we go.
And so I'm going to try to reset. So it was. It had editorial input from Michael Moore's editors on, Fahrenheit 9/11 and Bowling for Columbine. And it was a totally different kind of production. This was very much a hometown kind of deal.
Just budget alone, right? Like the Bigger, Stronger, Faster has like little cartoons in it. Yeah. Like even animation now will cost you a little bit of money.
Yeah.
Let alone back in 2008. So
yeah, Fiverr.
Some of that stuff I actually, and maybe it's because it's like documentaries to me. I just put in a different category in my brain, and that's kind of what we talk about here on the show. But I don't look at like production at all. I look like, not really. I look at like delivery, like I want the narrator sound. I don't want it to look like shit.
Right.
But like the content to a documentary is so much more important to me. Or maybe the opposite with another movie. Like people talk shit on all these movies. The new 3 Star Wars. I go in there, I just want to see some lasers and some aliens, just wow me a little bit. I'm eating popcorn. I don't give a shit, like whatever. I love Star Wars. You got a Jedi braid and you're slicing someone's head off. I'm down. Where like the documentary, I'm trying to like get some pseudo knowledge. I'm trying to do, I'm trying to get into a topic, and that's why I actually think this is like one of the most underrated fitness films, because people who watch it might think these characters are like hamming it up, but no offense to anybody in that film, like those guys aren't actors. Like they're just like, I've met a lot of them, and they've stomped around this gym that we're in right now, and that's just who they are.
Yeah, I will say that on this rewatch, the first 10 minutes or so was just excruciating. I thought, I'm never going to get through it this time. I just don't remember everybody being this inarticulate.
That's one thing we kind of mentioned, is just the sheer number of interviews. There's a lot of different people in this thing.
Usually when you watch a documentary, I feel like I don't know what the standard is. I'm sure there's commonalities between documentaries of how many people they're going through and circling back with. But if you would have written them down, I bet there was 40 different people that got a little screen time in there. It was hard to keep up with some of that.
And they don't always explain like who they are or why they're there.
No, and that was the one thing that most people right away you get the name and the title, but there was a few people that they're going to have a longer talk, so they don't give you the name and title until they get done with their first cut. Then it goes away to something else. Then you get the name and title, and that time you're thinking like, should I know this person? Did they already introduce them? I don't remember. So there was some of that too.
Yeah, and because powerlifting's not like, and everyone's gonna get all mad and butthurt, but like it's not like a real sport, and so like people don't have like you like Last Dance, right? I don't know if you guys seen the Michael Jordan documentary.
Yes.
Like obviously the epitome of sports documentaries at this point in this era. Like in basketball is obviously much easier; it's much more defined. But you just give someone's start, someone's finish, and then what they did. Michael Jordan, 1985, 2001, 16-time All-Star, 6-time champion. Like, oh, okay, I should listen to this guy because, and I read 3 lines. Where in this, they're kind of like like dude's name and like maybe his bench press number, and you're like at that time you don't even know what a good bench press is because they start throwing out numbers. Like I'm a 1,000-pound bencher, like this guy's benching 600, like he's a world record. In powerlifting, still like that. Like you said, like 700-pound deadlift. You see that in a gym, you're like, damn, that's pretty cool. But then if you're in the IPF, you're like, well, what weight class and what's a squat and bench? And none of it matters.
Yeah, what did the judging look like? Was it a national meet?
Yeah, it's just all such hearsay. And our sport's so simple, and yet they can't tell us why this person is an expert that I should listen to.
I think there was a couple people that their title was like state record holder. And you're like, whoa, okay, we're in rare territory here.
That's been a meme for so long. You guys should take that as a shirt or something. Like that county, local, district champion.
I was a state record holder for a period of time.
Damn, don't say that.
Like it may still be the case. I don't even know. Like I had an APF deadlift record. For a
what
period of time.
fed? Like what junior sub category of left-handed people with color blindness?
Yeah, somewhere in the aging out category. I don't know. Wow, that was really loud.
We're in a tin tuna can back here. It's a little windy. Sorry.
Yes.
Were there some people, obviously you guys have seen the movie a lot of times, and you said you started in like 2010. I feel like that is the era of geared lifting still. That's when Westside was not maybe at their peak, but that's geared lifting time. It wasn't like generally popular to raw powerlift or lift in sleeves or something till 14, 15, 16. So you guys were definitely still in it. Were there lifters that you knew in this film, like even Eddie Cohn? Like Eddie Cohn now, he's got an Instagram following, he's been all over YouTube. Obviously we've talked to him and hung out with him and everyone, and he's such a good ambassador to the sport. Like he's at meets, like people just know him, random folks just know him. So his name is very householdy. But there's other guys there, like Mendelsohn. There might be a billion kids that are way stronger than I'll ever be right now in the IPF or even USPA, whatever fed, that don't know who Scott Mendelsohn is. Yeah. But you could still make an argument he's the best bench presser of all time. Or Larry Pacifico. That's why I told my Twitch show. I was like, Larry Pacifico's in here. To me, like, if we're going to do this right now, Eddie Cohn, Michael Jordan, John Hack, maybe a LeBron, a Kobe. You can make these arguments against that, right? Maybe even a Jesse Norris might slip in there. A Ray Williams might be in these conversations. Now Dan Bell's doing some crazy shit. He might be the Shaquille O'Neal. Larry Pacifico's got to be a Magic Johnson or a Larry Bird. And kids don't even know who the hell Larry Pacifico is. Yeah. Which just blows my mind. And maybe this is from my basketball, and I do all these basketball references, sorry, people out there. Or hip-hop or whatever. That's like the culture I grew in, where you just always, and I think a lot of people do it, you pay ode to the past. Yeah. If you don't know the history, if you don't know the OGs, and especially powerlifting, where the OGs are comparative to now. Basketball, you can't compare some dude dribbling one-handed in the 60s to LeBron James right now. It's a different fucking sport, Yeah. But you can closely-ish compare what Eddie Cohn does to what they're doing now, and you can still say, oh, fuck, Eddie Cohn's a monster. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so for people not to kind of know that, sorry to rant on you boys, but what's some like lifters you really enjoyed from that era, or maybe you knew previous to the movie?
Well, I would say, Larry Pacifico, his name definitely came up, like if you start researching stuff and looking around. But a lot of those guys, the issue starts to be, it's just so hard to find anything of them outside of, here's a photograph of so-and-so deadlifting, and you just got to take the caption because the plates are like non-standard, so you don't really know what weight they're even lifting. But I mean,
what's with all the plates they're always using that? I'm like, where are they getting these?
I like that.
The plates seem like they were homemade.
Yeah.
I like that because
where are those plates? Because they haven't gone away. Like someone has all those somewhere. Those weird.
Yeah, they're kind of like deep dish. They're kind of like the new Rogue deep dish. I like that honestly because I've been going on rants lately about all these little pretentious ass kids that can't deadlift unless they have a kilo bar and some competition plates. Like back then, no calibration wasn't a thing, and then even in 2010 up until 2015, there'd be like one gym within 50 miles that had a calibrated competition set. That shit ain't normal. It ain't normal to spend $50,000 to lift some weights. Go lift some weights, you little turds.
Yeah. Well, I know who has all those plates. It's Zach Evanesh.
He does. Alan has some weird shit. Alan, Untamed Strength has some like handmade dumbbells from Folsom Prison.
What?
Like I think these prisoners made some dumbbells.
They got Johnny Cash's DNA on
and
there.
He
or
has
whatever.
them. I love that.
That's cool. Talking about lifters that were in there too. Another one that I like. That's I always like his parts in there is Ricky Dale Crane, and he's the guy for anyone if you've watched and maybe don't remember. He's got the frizzy.
Fading away afro,
like kind of like almost looks like a clown show haircut that he's got going on.
It's an 80s perm,
right?
70s perm.
It's something.
And I like his takes on thing, and I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on this. That he brought he brought the Oki deadlift bar to market, which I think was
that's correct.
Kind of the first deadlift bar too.
And they did.
So that's kind of
wrist wraps.
Is Oki still around?
I don't know.
I'm a big Oki fan. When we started lifting, we had an Oki and a Texas. I always liked the Oki, to be honest.
Yeah, so do I. So do I.
I like the
I think
Oki
you
a
can
lot.
get them. It's a very if you can go to the website, and I think it's a very like 1999 website feel, but I think they can be gotten through there still.
I remember in like 2016, 17, still looking around on websites. You know, that was my previous career, and we're looking at wraps and belts and stuff. I'm like, these websites blow my fucking mind. Like, am I buying
not
meth?
kept up with
What
the
are these? It was so bad. I'm trying to buy a fucking weightlifting belt and
GeoCities. And
holy shit, dude. And I get like powerlifters ain't maybe businessmen or programmers, but god damn.
Yeah.
Some of the worst shit I've ever seen in my life. Who's the guy? And again, I don't even know what he's like known for, but he compares himself to an excursion. That's my new favorite lifter.
They said he was an IPF junior.
Yeah, like champion in 2003.
Champion,
He's my favorite lifter.
I don't know.
It was Randall. I can't remember his last name. Randall something.
It's just so funny too because his analogy actually sucks. Sorry, Randall, but he's like bodybuilders like they're just looks. He's like Ferraris,
Ferrari.
and I'm like, dude, Ferraris are fast as fuck. Like that's the worst.
Performance too.
Yeah, like what?
And performance.
You should have said like a Mazda Miata or something. He's like fucking. He's like Ferraris and Corvettes. Who would want that? I was like, not me, dude. I hate those cars.
I think you've tapped into something. I think the metaphors that they are used by the
it's
by
all
people
bad.
they suck.
Yeah, it's bad.
Like very little accuracy in the metaphors in this.
He's like, I'm an excursion. I was like, you are, buddy. I want to be an excursion when I grow up.
I'm not sure that that's really what I want. But yeah, where was I? Oh. So we were talking about the Mike Womack thing. That's like probably one of the most popular, most watched powerlifting accidents ever. And I was in the room, and I thought my camera was charged, but it wasn't, or there would have been more video of that. But we thought he was dead.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like it when you watch it. And I had actually somehow, in all of the times this video's been on, all the powerlifting stuff I've watched over the years, I had never seen that injury. So that was a first for me on that video. And you go, whoa, like right away you think his head's smashed in when you see it drop.
Yeah, well, we thought, okay, so skull fracture for sure. And
his brains on the fucking bench.
That's what I was
Brain
expecting.
juice.
Yeah. And literally the ambulance came in and took him away, and it was so crazy that before the end of the meet he came back.
Yeah,
it's like they let you out of the hospital. Yeah, exactly. And like his face is swollen. Yeah, exactly. They should have put him, I don't know, somewhere, because having a spotter who didn't know what he was doing when you're benching over 700
face guards.
No face guards. Yeah, that they hadn't been invented yet.
Yeah, 2011, probably the first powerlifting meet here that I was involved with. I'm side spotting, and it's still there's probably 90% geared lifters, 10% Raw guys, and Chris Papillon flew out here. Single ply lifter, pretty fucking strong dude. Squatted in the 8s, benched in the 8s, probably pulled in the high 7s. One of the like big
Single ply,
big single ply lifter at the time. And I'm side spotting on a bench, and I've lifted off for 700 pound benches at the time, but I'm 22. I don't know what the fuck's going on. And the exact same thing happened, but it happens so quick because our elbows just shoot in, and then the shirt just gives up, and the world explodes. Luckily, we had the small face guards, not the big ones, but we had the small ones, and I just shoved this thing back into the thing, and it's like a movie. It ends up, for our audio listeners, I'm going to try to describe it well, but it ends up like an inch from his eyeball. You know, he's kind of got to turn sideways so this thing doesn't smash his fucking face, and I was like, holy. That's probably the closest to I just killed a man I've ever felt.
Yeah. Well, and we also, the Mendelsohn pec tear happened in this building.
Yeah.
Which is my...
Everyone's seen that picture.
Yeah, infamous.
My famous injury there.
My most watched YouTube video,
I wish you had the whole
million.
thing, though, because it could go in this movie. Mendelsohn pulls up. It's literally this gym right here, boys. And he pulls up on the road. The main road's right here behind Jimbo. And he pulls up in like a lifted excursion, blinged out rims, and then just fucking Moses way down, you know, and you're just again. I think it's just maybe the same meet, maybe the meet after that. I'm still like 22, and I'm just like, oh, I didn't know humans came in that size. Like, what the fuck is going on in here?
Now, I had experience with him before that. Obviously, there was a point at which he became the APF chairman for California, and that's kind of when things sort of went sideways for the APF in California, to be honest. We actually went down to LA and did a meet in that gym, not the one that's shown, but in his gym. He had moved after that, and they did not have a squat bar. Literally, there was no squat bar. So it was a...
I wonder when the squat bar was even invented, because we said the Oki, like, when did that even become, like, a thing?
I don't know.
When was... This is probably never going to pop up. Talk about not being able to get information. The funny thing, you guys talk about, like, the pictures and stuff being so crazy, but we're in the 90s. It's not like there wasn't cameras, you know? Like, this shit looks like it's the fucking gold rush, where it's 1997. Right. Like, we have plenty of pictures of Michael Jordan. Like, why isn't there shit going on?
One of the historical things that I really want to know, and we were discussing this right before the call, is the Lee Moran squat. Like, that is history for sure in powerlifting. That is an incredible squat. The fact that it knocks him out.
Yes.
He goes down, he comes back, loads it back up, the plates fall off the bar, goes back again, gives it another try before he gets this, what was it, like 1,011 or I don't know, it was 1,000 even. So it's just a crazy road to get that. But there was one little thing that someone slipped in there, and they said there was 5,000 to 6,000 people watching. And one, that's got to be the biggest powerlifting meet of all time.
Yeah.
And then two, I didn't see a single bit of footage from that crowd. And that's what I want to see, is I want to see how big that crowd actually was.
Well, and my thing was, meet directors today are always talking about these things that we need to do, or things that need to be done in order to take powerlifting to the next level, in order to make it more of a spectator sport and get audiences like this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, apparently we're doing that in 1984. Like, we're if anything, it's
but not now.
Regressed and come back up, and regressed and come back up a few times.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure that just might not be realistic. Like,
and nothing against like the big meets, but like even the biggest meets we have now, are there more than a couple hundred people ever?
Yeah, 6,000's a lot of people. 6,000's a lot. When people say that, that's a lot.
I don't know.
That's like what Joe Rogan pulls in for a comedy show. And that dude's arguably like the most famous dude on the internet.
Like, you need a full-on theater for something like that.
It's true.
Where would it have even been?
Yeah, so two things do come to mind. One, I think that number is probably exaggerated, because like when you see a crowd, you're gonna
times 10 maybe.
But I do think that in that time, geared lifting is a little bit more extreme, and this is a topic I want to bring up too, because they talk about Olympics a lot in this thing and how it gets there or whatever. Yeah. It is kind of extreme geared lifting, where raw lifting is just not really extreme per se. I wouldn't throw that word at it. It's hardcore if you want. I hate that term, but it's tough, right? There's some blood, there's some hooker, like, it shit hurts, but it's extreme to get under 1,000 pounds with gear on for some reason. It's more extreme than getting under 1,000 raw. Not that I'm ever or have experienced, never will, either of those, but like watching the person's reaction under gear, under 1,000 is so different than raw under 1,000. And I've seen both. during that time, there was less people doing this freaky sport. 1990s, even early 2000s, that maybe it had that kind of mystery about it, like strongman, and that's why strongman's taken off now. Like, oh wow, these are human apes doing insane things. I'm gonna go watch this. Where to us, like you said, a 700-pound deadlift, if you even scratch the surface of powerlifting, is very normal now. Wherein maybe in 1995 it was more of an anomaly, so it was more of like a freak show aspect that maybe it did draw a bigger crowd than we could now, because it's so you go to any powerlifting gym, and it's crazy that there's such thing as a powerlifting gym now, even to me, because again, 2010 there wasn't. There
were.
Even Mendelsohn had a boxing thing. Like,
yeah, well,
you know what I mean? Like there's Westside, there's Super Training, and even Super Training was inside of a strength and conditioning gym.
Yeah, but they talk about the movie is named after a gym called Power Unlimited, which was the bodybuilding
gym,
bodybuilding and powerlifting gym in the Bay Area.
But there's no powerlifting gym.
Yeah, no straight powerlifting.
There's no powerlifting.
But there was like also not straight, just powerlifting.
Sure.
I think that's the thing.
Yeah, but my point is that now it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Each major city has a powerlifting gym or strength conditioning base where the owner's a powerlifter, and you'll easily find a 700-pound deadlifter at every single one.
That's probably true.
You know?
Yeah.
Where back then you wouldn't. You couldn't even find a fucking gym.
Yeah.
You know, another funny thing that I think has changed since this movie, we're talking like mid-2000s, and a lot of examples you give there, and you're just giving anecdotes, we refer to the deadlift. Like, the deadlift is a big deal right now. And in this movie, they spend a lot of time comparing and contrasting bench only versus full power.
Yeah.
And when they're making those comparisons, the full power argument always goes back to the squat, which it's just everything is a squat. Yep. The deadlift almost doesn't exist.
It kind of feels like an afterthought.
Right, and I know that that's a little bit of a maybe more common thing in geared powerlifting. But it's just weird how now the deadlift, like through Instagram and everything like that, that's almost like the most viewer-friendly lift, and like have just gained so much more popularity, and it's just a lot more common to think about a deadlift in reference now than at that point in time. It was obviously the squat. Like, that's all they talked about. Like, they almost didn't care about the deadlift.
I think you're right. And I think it's twofold. I think one is the gear helped you more in the squat. So all these guys who were
that's an important point.
So they're all big power guys. They're full power guys. They're like, well, my squat's my biggest lift.
Yeah.
And like majority of raw lifters, not everyone, but will have a bigger deadlift than their squat. Majority, especially if you're knee sleeve.
Yeah, it's usually 1.25 to 1.5 times.
Yeah, depending. There's some guys that are built a little different or whatever, but majority. And then you throw in wraps, it gets a little bit different. Or your name's Ray Williams, and then it's different. But if you're in gear, you're right. Like squat was the gig probably because of the gear. So that's what you hung your hat on that I was good at. But I agree with you now, maybe even the last 5 years, the deadlift's been the cool lift. It looks cooler. Even Westside guys say it, like in, I don't know, documentaries or clips or whatever. They always say, like, don't want to fight a guy with a big deadlift. Like, they say shit like that. Like, they make it cool, though, which is interesting.
Well, I have another wrinkle on this particular thing. At the time, I don't know what the current state of it is, but at the time, Wobble was very popular.
Yeah,
and Wobble did not have a squat. It had benches and deadlifts, but it did not have a squat.
Yeah.
And those people absolutely called themselves powerlifters as well.
Yeah.
And so I think the differentiation was we squat and everybody else doesn't squat.
That's another wrinkle to the whole thing is no one talks about that now. Yeah. Maddox's going to bench 800 and ain't no one going to tell me not a power lifter.
Yeah.
I'm not telling that dude shit. I just don't care. Like, yeah, you're a beast. But my hot take of the day is that if you're bench only, you're not a power lifter.
Well, my hot take of the day is this is not a documentary. It's more of a hagiography. It is a love letter. It is a love letter to it's when you show all the positives and people have to figure out the negatives.
Okay.
To USPF for sure.
Powerlifting.
To geared powerlifting for sure. And the underlying theme was supposed to be trying to garner enough public knowledge of this sport to push it toward the Olympics.
Yeah, they didn't
That's
mention.
wild that Olympics talk was in there, even though
Yeah.
you got Mendelsohn saying, "Yeah, I'd love to be in the Olympics," and like, dude, you're not going to pass the drug test.
So
we had that exact conversation. The drug test. Come on now.
Yeah, the Olympics keeps coming up, and it's like, well, okay. I mean, there's a few people that would make the cut, but yeah, Mendy's not one of them.
yeah. And they didn't talk about steroids once, I don't think.
No, well, they didn't, and they didn't talk about the fact that why the USPF at the time was no longer affiliated with
right.
the IPF,
which is happening just before that, I believe.
It was a little bit before that, yeah.
Yeah, like
And-
2005-ish.
Yeah, and USPF ran tested and non-tested meets.
Yeah, yeah. They,
You know,
I
even-
was surprised they didn't take steroids at all. And then the other hot take on there was everyone gets along. No, well, we're
Yeah.
competing, but
I
everyone.
thought that
it's
was
like,
really
no,
funny.
Yeah.
None of you got. You all hate each other. You guys are
Yeah.
fucking. I don't know who's paying you, and maybe not those particular interviews. But like any niche, again, we talk about the narcissism and whatever, and I don't think it's as heavy then because powerlifting was kind of cool. There was nothing to win. I liken it to early MMA days. Like, there's nothing to win. There's no money. There's no popularity. There's no anything. It's literally your ego driving you, which is maybe another argument for our narcissism, but it's way different than now, where there is some money, there's some popularity, there is some cool guy factor. But any niche you get in anywhere, and powerlifting's always been and still is very small, everyone knows everyone, there's going to be drama. There's going to be hate. There's going to be shit talking. That is just part of human being nature. I do agree with that part of my buddy Jordan Shallow. It's just now escalated by the niche you are in and YouTube. But they all play so happy-go-lucky. No one talks steroids.
Yeah.
And then no one wants to see any of you in the Olympics. Someone said I'm an athlete in that too, right? That's a quote that popped out to me. I think it was Mendy. Sorry, buddy. You'd eat me for dinner. But I think he says I'm an athlete. I'm like, that term. I've just like played against guys that have been in the NBA and shit, you know? So like stuff like that just kind of rubs me a little weird.
I would agree with you on that point.
Well, and on Mendelsohn, I picked out a couple things that I feel like I have to just
Hit it.
out
Feel
here.
free.
And we don't know Scott. You guys have probably both met him before and everything, and we followed him and I agree with what you said earlier.
And we completely do respect his accomplishments. I
Yeah,
mean, he is
he's a tank.
He totally
Right.
he totally threatened me on Facebook Messenger after a year after I posted that video of his pec tear. Like it suddenly became really popular, and he wanted a taste. And I'm like, I didn't see it for another year after that because we were not friends on Facebook. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, but to all those out there, you should look him up. Like his powerlifting accomplishment, he might be the best bench press of all time. Even if Maddox hits 800, like I think Maddox would have to go and do 1100 in a shirt. He did it all.
The raw record
he
for
had
a
the
long
raw
time.
record
He did
over
it all.
700 pounds.
Yeah,
he
and-
still is built different.
No, he's a
than
tank.
the average
He's a
person.
tank. It's like
he's-
McGregor getting 2 belts. Like it's a first of the nature.
Yeah. Anyway,
But when he's sitting there in the interviews, and granted, those people listening won't be able to see this, but when he's sitting like this,
It's all the way back, like looking up his nose, and he's like propped.
and then they say, and Mendelssohn's built different at 11% body fat.
Love it.
Okay, I'm not a body fat expert, and I'm not claiming my own body fat to be low percentages here, but come on. Like, I have general ideas, and I'm like, this man sitting here, like, with his jowls, like, absorbing his neck is not 11% body fat.
Look, I heard Ronnie Coleman was 0.3% body fat, so anything's possible.
I thought that was Bruce Lee.
No,
I would believe it of Bruce Lee.
Ronnie said it on a Rogan podcast, and poor
I saw
Ronnie.
heard
Yeah,
that
I'm just
too,
like,
yeah,
oh man, that just makes every like fitness dude go like, oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go.
11% body fat, and what else?
Well, so then another thing, and I get that these are probably thrown around really casually, but just his diet. And I wrote a couple of these down. So 10 gallons of Gatorade a day, which would be 8,000 calories in Gatorade.
Oh, I love that you
the
did that math.
there.
I was about to do it.
By itself.
Yeah, so 8,000 calories of Gatorade. This is after they did
just
say
be pissing constantly.
you would. This is also they did say he takes in 12,000 calories per day, 7,500 calories in weight gainer. So of the 12,000 calories he takes in a day, 7,500 are weight gainer and 8,000 are Gatorade.
I'm
He's
not that
already
good at
almost
math.
16, he's
Yeah.
already at almost 16,000 calories, and he hasn't consumed any food yet. And then they said roughly
5 pounds of red meat.
5 pounds of red meat and then 40 egg whites a day. So
What's 5
by
pounds of
this math,
ribeye?
Yeah,
Yeah, you're
is
dead.
taking in roughly 20,000 plus calories a day.
I love that.
I'd almost
one other
believe
thing,
that.
His wife said that she that he gets a concussion every time he benches over 1,000 pounds.
So,
and I'm like, whoa, that was like, don't do that then. Like that's not good.
I've had a theory for a long time, and this is 100% anecdotal. Do not listen to me. But I've had a theory for a long time that it's going to come out later. You know, what was the movie? It got really popular with CTE.
Concussion.
Is that the movie's name?
I don't know.
No, but concussions. But it's
yes, it's called.
Is it called
concussion?
concussions? So because the truth is, it's not concussions that cause a lot of CTE. It's micro traumas to the brain. Football linemen, right? Typically, all this stuff. I do think there's going to be something related to powerlifting. It's just not as popular yet. But everyone asks, like, oh yeah, man, did a hard set of 5, kind of blacked out, or saw stars, or felt a little like that.
Right.
There's something going on with your brain that's not just blood rushing to your erectors from a hard set.
If you don't like vasovagal out and just pass out, then and you keep going, you're still probably.
Well, and let alone in gear,
and
let
gear.
alone on gear, and let alone the amount of weight that these guys are handling. Even anyone listening right now, you've done, say your max is 405, and you've done an all out set at 315 on deadlifts. Like, you feel a little like, oh shit, for maybe a couple minutes. There's something with your brain going on. So not to say that dude got a billion concussions every time he squatted 1,000, but something weird's happening to our brains.
Yeah,
that's not healthy.
One of the criticisms of this movie at the time was that West Side is just touched on a little bit. And
Hardly,
and I can tell you that Louis absolutely refused to participate in this because it was
that
a love letter.
Does not surprise me one bit.
Because it was a love letter to the USPF, and he hated
Sure.
the USPF because they tried to. They tried to drug test him as a coach. He's told this story a million times.
I've never heard that, but that's amazing.
Yeah, they're like
drug test all coaches.
and,
Fuck them.
and out of competition test as a coach, and so he fucking hated.
Was
the
Elite
USPF.
FTS a thing? Because I know there's a lot of Elite FTS faces on there that I recognize.
So yeah, Elite was
There
around
was some logos in there too. Elite FTS logos.
Yeah,
because I'm Ledusky.
Yeah,
I followed
Julia.
her. Yeah, I followed her really early and talk about OGs and people that are still around and still doing good things for the sport. And one of the early lady figures that doesn't get enough love in the sport. She's someone I followed on the Elite FTS boards for a long time and wrote articles about bench and stuff for them. She's in there, and I wondered if that played a role with not mentioning Westside because it was probably early in the Dave Tate split, so maybe the blood was a little fresh.
No, they were getting along at that point. I think, as far as I know. I mean, they fell in and out and in and out and in and out, and I think still do. So, but to me, if you take Julia and you take oh my God, I'm blanking on her name right now. The Australian Bev Francis.
Bev Francis.
You put those together, you get Jen Thompson.
Oh yeah.
In terms of personality.
Yeah, and they even look kind of alike in the world. Yeah.
In terms of personality, because like Bev Francis really had all the confidence in the world.
They might have been the best 2 interviews in the whole thing.
Probably so.
Yeah, Bev Francis was really good.
She
I
was
thought.
good.
Yes, that's a good point.
I thought Swanson was a really good ad, and they mentioned some of her numbers really quickly, talking about not introducing people to, like, everyone says, like, best strength athlete of all time, but they don't really say, like, how fucking savage she was.
Yeah.
Because even in gear, she could still, in my book, probably be mentioned as the best female strength athlete of all time.
Yeah, probably.
Like,
there's
she's a person that a lot of people have forgotten about. Too,
Yeah.
or newer people aren't aware of who
Benched
she is.
500, squatted 800. Look.
Total 2000, yeah.
Look. Everyone.
I did meets with her, so I did see.
She was here. Yeah, and people ask me this. Probably ask you guys all the time, like, who's your favorite powerlifter? And I never made one before, and now I've made one. Is Jessica Butner. She's my favorite. The forklifter. She's my favorite powerlifter. I just
the Canadian forklift.
Dude, I'm a Canadian through and through. My best friend's up there, Omar, and my favorite powerlifter's up there. And so. She does insane things, right? Amanda does insane things. Mello does insane things. Obviously, Steffi. There's all these athletes doing stupid things in the lady powerlifting game. But 800 pounds in gear, that's some different shit. 500 pounds in gear. I don't care in gear. I don't care reverse band. I don't give a flying fuck. That's some insane weights being moved. Again, not knowing the history of the sport and people not talking about athletes like Swanson. I think she was Highland Games, did some like strong woman, like did a bunch of shit. Just an absolute tank and a half.
She has a tattoo on the back of her neck it's a white tattoo.
Oh yeah.
So you can only see it when she's like lifting, and so there's like
glare.
Blood running into the tissues. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it says strongest ever.
Oh yeah.
And I really can't argue with that
Yeah.
point. I mean,
yeah.
No.
Yeah, she's a good mention.
To get into some kind of programmatic stuff that I have written down here,
Hit us.
what moment in this film fires you up the most? Whoever wants to go first.
Lead it, boys.
Because, and I say this because so many people on YouTube and in person or whatever say, "Oh, I put that movie on before I left. It really fires me up."
Yeah.
What fires you up?
I guess I probably go back to just with the intensity of Kirk's
Captain
monologue.
Kirk.
Like that's I mean, it's so iconic. Big Mendy's bench, that's inspiring, but it also at the same time is a little anticlimactic. Like it kind of is like it's a bodybuilding show. They run him out.
Yeah.
The crowd's kind of, you hear like two claps in the distance, and then he goes and a few guys yell and he walks off, and it was like, I'm sure it was really cool to see in person, but the way they presented it on film, it felt a little like that was the biggest lift of all time. And there was like 4 people that were excited for it. So that was a little bit of a disappointment.
Yeah, I gotta agree with the Captain Kirk. Like that stuff that we quote in the gym fairly regularly, like your buddy's over in the squat rack and you give him like 5 minutes, dude, like or else this plate's coming at your head. I like the Kirk Kowalski stuff. It's good.
And then as far as like thinking like, oh, that's just badass. Like the Lee Moran thing was to see this
it's a
guy
good story.
like just keep throwing himself at it. You're like, damn, that guy wants it bad.
Lee Moran I believe was a patched Hell's Angel too. I don't know if they talked.
I think that's true.
See, I've never made a documentary, and it's obviously much easier to talk when you're a viewer. But like, that's the stories we need.
Yeah,
well,
well, that's
to make powerlifting like go on Netflix and explode the fuck up. Like that's the kind of shit we need to talk about.
It's Matt Dimmel in the West Side versus the World.
And
It's basically the same kind of story.
and even that though, West Side of the World versus the World, I enjoyed a lot, and I know there's complications in getting the stories you want to make movies the way they should be. Some people may not be open to talk about it. You may not be able to get the interview.
Yeah.
Getting people to open up and interview like that is a skill, and maybe even a timing thing when people are ready to do that. But those are the stories. What makes the Olympics the Olympics? Running in a circle ain't interesting.
No.
It's hearing about that poor person broke their leg and then they lost their child and then their mom had cancer and they still made their way to be the fastest person in whatever. Like those are the stories we kind of need to hear, because I've never heard that, but I would love to. And I don't know what fires me up, by the way. Nothing fires me up. I think I got adrenal fatigue or something that some doctor told me. None of that gets me excited.
And I would also say that me watching this video at like 18 or 20 years old, I would have had a way different reaction to now. Like then I would have been like, oh, it's so badass. Yeah. And now it's like, well, okay, yeah, we've kind of seen this. If you're around long enough, it all starts to feel sort of cliche.
Even though I think so, we did Pumping Iron last month. I think more of that pump fired me up. Just seeing like Arnold get interviewed and people going nuts behind him, or that dude squat 315 till he died. Like that stuff actually fires me up more, I think, than powerlifting stuff. To be honest.
Well, the moment that fired me up is not in the film. Actually,
that's cheating, dude.
No, because it
was in the movie take.
Yeah, the BTS.
Because literally what happened was the meat that's shown at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah,
and then it's shown later. It's woven through it, so the timeline's really fucked in this movie. Just so everybody knows.
Sure.
But it was the Pasadena Fit Expo before it became the LA Fit Expo. It was in Pasadena. I competed there was an APF meet one day and then there was a USPF meet the next day.
Yeah, that gives you guys an idea of just powerlifting. Like, what the fuck is that?
Like, why?
So I did that meet, and what happened was I came out for my first squat, and Haas had wrapped my knees, and like I said, not tight. I didn't like tight because I have these giant calves, and if you start constricting the blood flow back to my heart, they cramp, right?
Yeah.
And I can't move them. And so I get out there, and I unrack the bar, and immediately go straight forward, like
timber.
Yes, exactly. Like the bar hit the upright, and the spotters had to catch me and everything. And the cameras were running for this film and for Bigger, Stronger, Faster. And I reached out to everyone and said, please do me a favor and do not use that footage of me eating shit. I would prefer that you just not.
That fires you up?
It fired me up that it wasn't there. Yeah, I was very happy that it wasn't there.
I take mine back. I did think it was two things. Like Shock Me fired me up. This is gonna sound like morbid, but like how many young people at the end of the movie they dedicate the movie to that passed, and they don't say why they passed.
Yes.
Like that fires me up in a way, like not like rah rah, saw, but like oh fuck, life is short, and I've just had a lot of death in my short life of people close to me. So like that kind of stuff hits me. Like I guess fired up to me is like the tingle in the back of your neck.
Yeah.
That gives me like, oh, fuck. And then the dude in Grass Valley. They interview that random lady that like just got into powerlifting and has state, county, division records. I was like, nah, that's not that cool. And then they go to this other guy and then he's squatting 315 and you're kind of like, well, that's not that cool. And then he's like, oh, I got cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay. Like, and then this dude's fucking
Yeah.
about it. He's like, I don't really give a fuck about this. Like, I'm about it. And although I can't find that level or passion for powerlifting myself, I train really hard. I'm really dedicated. I've given 12 years of my life to this silly sport. Seeing someone that into it with way more obstacles than I have getting under a barbell doesn't fire me up per se, but gives me a little goosebumpies.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay, so most cringe moment in the film.
There's a lot. This one's gonna be my dude. I love them, and I like to be an excursion, but just the analogies doesn't really work. You're like a Ferrari without an engine. He could have said that.
Yeah.
He could have said a Ferrari on the back of a trailer. That would have been cool. But I really want to be a Ferrari, but I don't want to be a bodybuilder, so he lost me. I don't know if it's cringe per se. Sadly, you watch anything like pre-2014, and like the whole vibe just because as film and communication podcasts.
Yeah.
Shit, my podcast from a year ago, I've probably said some cringe-ass things. Like it just always feels cringy because we are progressing. So maybe the entire movie?
Yeah. I would say like the Mendy diet thing was so out there. That one a little bit. And one thing I mean, I get what they were saying. I hadn't heard much of it was you got bit by the iron bug. Bug. And I'm like, I've never really heard people say that in person. Like that seems, I guess you're trying to put a name on something, but I don't hear people use that ever.
Was that the name of the production company?
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe that was some
Yeah.
fed lines, which does make it worse.
Yeah, Gabe has that tattoo.
Sorry. I'm sorry, Gabe.
Yeah.
Sorry, bud.
I
but
pissed
that-
Gabe off when
I
Outside
probably
Word of
pissed
the
everybody off.
World came out because I said it was really the only
Powerlifting
documentary.
Yeah. One thing, I don't know if it's the most cringeworthy, but it was something else Tommy and I talked about and we haven't brought up yet. When Cartwright he's given a monologue about something, he's describing how he maybe has a little bit of a temper, and he casually drops in that just before this interview in the gas station, he punched a guy in the face in the gas station.
Yeah, it was
just like,
casual.
he just did it in passing. Like that's what happens during the week. I punch people in the face, and it was like, whoa, that was way too casual.
Like he's
man.
like, oh yeah, and kind of like just today when I was on the way here, there's a guy in the gas station, and I punched him, and
like he was talking to he didn't think a guy with a suit and a tie on would do something like that. And it's like, well, I think most people usually don't think they're going to get punched in the face in the gas station in general.
That could have been me. He literally lived a stone's throw from my childhood home. Yeah, like a stone's throw. I see him in between gyms, or I was staying with my mom for a while years ago out in the suburbs of Sacramento, and him and I went to the same commercial gym. I saw him every day.
Yeah. Well, I have to say that I never believed that story.
I don't know.
And if you look at the there are a lot of comments on my channel have said that they don't believe that story. I never believed it. I never thought it was a true thing. Because also I don't think it was before that interview. I think it was actually before a training session.
Oh, but it happened.
And no, he came in and talked about having had a verbal exchange with somebody, not that he punched somebody.
Yeah.
Right.
But at the same time, I will add that we'll get to this one. We'll get to this one in a minute. My most cringe moment is probably Mendelsohn saying that he squatted $1,000 before. I think
Yeah,
that's
just
like,
for fun.
I don't believe it.
yeah.
Well, credit to him, he starts to describe it,
Yeah.
But then it gets worse. First he's like, yeah, but not powerlifter. He's like,
It was really high.
but parallel, but high, but parallel.
Yeah, but it was a condominium.
It was actually on a leg press, but it was 1,000 pounds.
Yeah, we just start trickling.
Exactly.
That's like, I bet you about 350 in high school. Yeah.
My next question actually feeds into what I was about to say, but I'll hold on to it. I have there's a podcast that I listen to all the time called The Rewatchables, and one of their categories is about movies, and their categories is what's aged the worst. So I think that's very appropriate for this film.
Yeah.
What's aged the worst in this film?
I think a combo of geared powerlifting. just in general. Like it's dead. I think single play is making a small comeback with guys like Blaine Sumner and some really incredible athletes. But I don't think it has life. But I would say what aged the actual worst, and this is like a deeper take than this surface level ish, is what we were talking about, how none of us maybe relate to like that hardcore mentality that you had to be a ripped off denim jean wearing bench press to save my life. What if I get stuck under a rock? I'll be able to bench press that thing off me kind of mentality that all these guys are in no offense to them, like that's what they live, and that's probably keeping them sane by all means, whatever keeps you sane out there, folks, so we don't hurt each other. But I'm lifting weights. I'm just these are little metal discs and I'm lifting them up and down. It's just kind of what I do, where they're so live and die by this.
Yeah.
I would say two things, and one we kind of talked about was the Olympics talk. It just feels like that ship has sailed. Like it keeps sailing. It's not gonna happen. Like that's done. Like that dream is non-existent. But then also even another venue they talk about briefly was the X Games. And if there's one thing that feels like
they did.
I didn't know they did.
If there's one thing that feels like it doesn't fit, it is powerlifting in the X Games. Like that just doesn't. I mean, maybe early 2000s that seemed like a better fit, but with where the X Games are at now, like that is like no way, that's not happening.
I don't know where the X Games are now, but I know we've talked about it a lot too. Maybe I didn't know they mentioned it in the movie. I think geared lifting does fit in there, and people's arguments like it's not very watchable or all this, but like esports are in the X Games now. Like, and you can argue for the normal person, esports aren't very watchable either. And I don't think it would get like TV time or become more popular. I think that's what people's argument is going to the Olympics, that like we want our athletes to be prestigious and we want them to get more eyes on them. Like wherever powerlifting may go, that's not going to lead it there. like YouTube, Instagram, hopefully podcasts, hopefully really good figures like Johnny Candido and people like that lead it there. Just because you hop in how many sports are in the Olympics that none of us have ever watched in our life? Like a billion.
A lot.
Yeah, there's a billion fucking sports. South Dakota's probably the capital of curling for all we know. I never watched that shit ever. So like I don't think that's an answer, but I think if it ever fit in a scope of shit, it's probably there, because the Olympics, I don't know, maybe IPF shit maybe in the Olympics just because it is kind of, but why? My bigger question is, why would the Olympics do it, and why do we even need it?
We don't.
Yeah, just for the ego.
We don't. Oh, I know. I was actually going to say this. This
what didn't hold up?
The training footage that was in there. Every rack is facing the wall.
Oh,
and we don't like when we put our gym together. We actually intentionally turned our racks so they faced out.
Oh, for sure. Yep.
that's interesting.
And
was there a mirror in front of that rock pole at Super Training in that movie?
Kind
of felt like there was.
Yeah, there was.
I would never rack pull into a mirror.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I don't want to do any lifting into a mirror like that.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, the original inside body construction zone. Yeah, there was.
But that's just more, I think, the evolution of powerlifting, because it's still like new in this movie, and like little coaches looking at more, and even how they talk about form and stuff. Some of that's kind of cringe to me, even, and maybe that's because I'm a hyper analytical like coach myself. But like how they approach it and talk about it, where now shout out to like Eric Helms and Bryce Lewis and all these really, really, really smart coaches that look at a holistic thing of coaching. Something as simple as don't look in a mirror when you squat probably wasn't talked about, our concept there, where now we all kind of understand like why. Well, because one, you don't get to at a meet. Two, you get the proprioception. You get to learn your motor skills better. You get to feel and think about what your body's doing rather than relying on a visual cue. And it may throw off your depth perception and blah, 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 a bunch of other reasons. But yeah, it was probably too early in the evolution of the sport for that to happen.
Yeah. Well, I have a story. This is the one I was holding on to. So when ST became a real thing, an actual gym, when we moved the monolift in, I said we need to turn it around so that it faces out.
Yeah.
And Haas had a different idea about that. And it was like safety or whatever. Totally had a freak out.
Just
on
wanted to
me.
stare at a wall.
Yeah, had total freak out on me at the time. So it's not any kind of secret that I shot a bunch of footage that didn't end up in Bigger, Stronger, Faster. I had a camera running the whole time, and so I never watched that, but I sent it off to the editor. It's like, here's all the stuff, and you may or may not ever want to see this or use it for anything, but here it is. So we go to the premiere of that movie in Hollywood, And the editor, God bless him, he was drunk, but he was a very good editor. But he comes up to me and he's like, Cubby! And goes on and on about that footage that like he's the only person that had seen it all, and he thought it was amazing.
That's funny.
But yeah, so but they have to turn out. I'm not the
Yeah.
first guy who had that idea, but there was a reason for it, a marketing reason for it.
Yeah.
You can see the lifters' faces
of
when you're
course.
shooting them. You know.
Side note on that, I think Kowalski is the one that said it helps to film yourself in that.
He did.
yeah.
I thought
he does
that
say
was interesting. That stood out to me
Yeah.
because, like, obviously every coach and every lifter does it now or preaches it out. Like, yeah, check out your lifts, film yourself from the side of the front. You can kind of see how you're moving, and you can kind of get some feedback from that. But yeah,
That almost feels like it's gone full circle because now some of the hardcore people would almost be like, "Oh, you don't need to film all your sets. You don't need to look at yourself."
Yeah.
What are you doing that for? Instagram? Lift for yourself, brother.
Yeah, right, exactly. One other thing that's kind of a relic of the past that you could notice in there a few times is the squat stands that have like the hydraulics in them.
Right.
You
Yeah.
do not see that anymore. Like they don't make those, I don't think.
Yeah, Ed Cohn's last meet, he wanted to use those. I was there. That was like the second time I ever met Ed, and Scott Smith, who's in this film, was competing in that as well. And Ed knew that it was not his favorite way to
Lift.
and Ed talked him into using those because Ed liked them. And Ed will tell you that he'd never played psychological games with his
Yeah,
competitors, but he did, without a doubt. My next question: would this film be better if it was more like the Hunger Games?
Oh. Hot take. I love the Hunger Games. I love the Hunger Games. I feel like people don't throw that, and it's not in my Harry Potter category. Harry Potter's legendary, but it's like B tier underneath that. I really enjoyed the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Big fan.
I think Hunger Games fades though. Like I don't because
It
I
does.
can't even tell you. Is there 2 or 3?
There's
I'm not
three.
even
There's like
really
6.
sure.
Yeah, it gets into 20 different parts.
There's 3.
Yeah, and then
Right.
there's part A, B, C. It does get a little weird. It gets a little
I
weird.
guess if what
Maybe
you're
they're
saying
four.
is if the movie had more CGI, would it be better? And
Yeah.
I think Power Unlimited would be really cool with a lot of CGI.
I
so I'll
have
get
to
on
agree
board
with you. We'd actually see Lee Moran squat that way with CGI.
Yeah, when was that squat?
We can
The
see crowd of
70s?
5,000 crazy people.
That's like the best example of what we were talking about. Like this film looked like it was made in 1908, but I think Lee Moran's squat had to be like in the 70s.
Something like that. I don't know.
think
I
even
lost
like the
track of
80s,
it.
Yeah,
I think it was.
That pictures they show looks like a fucking caveman scratched it on a wall. You're like, what the fuck am I looking at?
Yeah, for sure. All right. Least plausible story. I'm giving you 3 options for this. Kirk Kowalski actually throwing a 45 at anyone ever. Haas's slight altercation that we talked about earlier, where he's potentially punched somebody in a gas station, or Mendy squatting a grand.
Oh, least plausible?
Least plausible.
Oh boy, that's some stiff competition amongst those
Yeah, you
three.
didn't make this easy.
I want to think that it's possible that Mendelsohn has put some amount of heavy weight on his back and then done something with it at some point. So,
Okay.
he's probably actually squatting a grand. Would I term a squat? Probably not. But I think, and maybe Cartwright did something in a gas station at some point in time, but I don't think Kirk ever threw a plate at someone.
I don't think so either.
Really? That was going to be my double down. Okay. I was going to say, like, I feel out of all the fiery characters, he's kind of the one I don't really want to talk to. I'm a little like, I've lifted off for Cartwright at the commercial gym, and, it was an awkward exchange because of both of our pasts, and we know each other, but we don't know each other. Like, oh, that's fine, but, like, he's not going to punch me in 24-hour fitness. Kowalski, if I'm on this squat rack, I don't know, bro. I'm probably leaving. Probably
You
done.
got 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'll probably just leave.
At least get your stuff packed.
I'm leaving at 4:30. I'm not even. Not
You
even getting
drive
close.
in and you drive away.
Yeah, I'm over it. He just seems, even in like the interviews, like, that was good. All right, yeah, I tried to be honest. All right, like, well, why are you yelling at the editor like that?
No, you're right too, and he does come across as pretty genuine and stuff
Yeah.
like that, in his seriousness. I just like if he actually threw the plate, probably not. But
I've just seen some
But
people.
I agree though. He is pretty genuinely intense.
Yeah, I've seen some of our nicer training partners have yeeted some fucking plates and like kicked like deadlift stands and shit. Like some of our nice guys have broken toes, and I'm like, well, don't want to fuck with the mean ones.
My only experience with him was at Ed Cohn's last meet, and when they opened the bar, he was there. Let's just say.
Yeah, that's all of them.
Yeah.
Different time.
Let's just say.
Would say one thing about him though. We talked about the body types and stuff like that though. Talk about a jacked dude.
Insane.
He
Though.
had one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe my favorite physique. I paused that on Twitch. I said, "Boys, this is me shirtless." You know, like that. He looks fucking savage. He looks like KK.
Yeah.
He looks
Yeah.
like Konstantin Konstantinov. Like he looks insane.
Super thick.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, like literally, like the memes people drop on like Instagram. It'll be like powerlifter, bodybuilder, CrossFitter.
Yeah.
They're just sketches of body types. Like that's literally him. He
Yeah.
looks like the Hulk.
Yeah.
He literally looks like
Yeah.
the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a physique, ladies and gentlemen. Talk about, you want to know what got me excited? Kowalski getting
physique.
naked. That really shuffled that
shirtless.
movie up.
That's the time when he flexes his abs.
God damn.
He did that bodybuilder side pose.
Yeah. Just don't do that part as a powerlifter. You know, just let it be.
Oh my God, his basement flooded with that one. Anyway. Okay, so we're gonna borrow
No, we're stealing. It's
steal.
ours now.
We're gonna steal a segment from the Mastonomics podcast because we're
All
the
right.
Mastonomics guys
Yes.
here.
I'll
We're
start
gonna-
with my first one. and
We're
then you
gonna
go.
over under.
All right.
Okay.
Over under, boys. Geared powerlifting.
This is a tough one.
And I think it's important to note that when we play overrated, underrated, we like to look at it not just do we like something or do we dislike something. That's not the question.
You got to
here.
get the public opinion in there a bit
Yeah.
too.
Sure. Yeah, it's maybe not
And
like what you think.
Most people, and I think most people, if you ask, would be like, "Oh, geared powerlifting, way overrated." So I think that's worth factoring into the decision here.
Right.
I think most people would say that.
And when I would say this, when I watch single ply lifting, which we're gonna lump that in with geared powerlifting for the argument, someone like Blaine Sumner, I respect the shit out of his lifting. Like I enjoy watching like some of those single ply squats when I'm like, my God, that still looks exactly like a squat. That's what squatting looks like in my head.
Yeah, like clearly hitting depth.
Right. To me, I don't know your opinion, Tommy. To me, it's still a little overrated. I don't know. I guess I even considering the general opinion and stuff, just because I'm so entrenched in Raw, I suppose. I just appreciate Raw more, and I'm just going to say a little bit.
I would go with that same thing. I do feel like raw lifting, it's a little more relatable. It's maybe a truer test of strength. It's more accessible. I still think what geared is a little overrated.
But I still like it existing.
Yeah,
I'm
I do too.
glad
I think it's good that it does exist.
Yeah.
I think it would be bad if it just completely disappeared. I think it's good that it's around.
Yeah, I agree. I do think single ply is making a slight comeback, and I think they just overdid it all, right? Like they just overdid it all. If you just go single ply, keep it basic, single ply, and then raw. Even raw is now trying to overdo it, right? Because they're like deadlift bar, non-deadlift bar, this rack, this, that, this. Like let's just simplify them both and have like two basic categories is what I would do. If you ever want to go fucking X Games or Olympics, like chill the fuck out with the billion categories. I do think there's an art, and I think your point was number one is that single ply squats look like squats. That same lifter, majority of single ply lifters squat the exact same raw or in their suit.
Yeah.
Their form looks almost identical.
Bench is not so much though.
Yeah, bench gets a little weird. But even a lot of those guys, they have big benches. You don't get the geared guys that bench 315 raw and then bench 800 in gear. You don't get that in single ply. Like they're still moving. The ratio's a little better.
For the most part, I think that's true. Over or under Mike Lambert's Xerox machine.
Okay, this is something that I wanted to mention too with the overall production is the setting the scene for an interview. Now, I do a little bit of videography in my job, and usually there's a few things, you want to make sure your subject looks somewhat flattering, not leaned back completely, looking up their nose. You also make sure that the background maybe is somewhat not annoying to look at.
Yeah.
And there is clearly a fax machine just chilling right there. And it's like the powerlifting, was it Powerlifting USA or what were the magazine? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they're there in the corner, but it's like maybe we could have just turned the camera like 10
or
degrees.
move the fax machine.
And it wouldn't have been this weird thing sticking out. So the fax machine, probably very underrated, actually.
That is my wife's sole memory of this film.
Yeah, just a large ass fax machine.
Yes. This giant thing in the way.
Underrated for sure. Great fax machine.
Mike was touching on this one a little bit earlier. Technique. The word technique appears in this film a lot. I don't think I'd ever noticed that before. So technique, overrated or underrated?
Yeah, they do like a whole mini segment on it.
Yes.
See, this is tricky because I would say right off the bat, technique is underrated. Like technique is so important, especially when it comes to longevity. Like you can be like, oh fuck technique, but your time that you're going to be lifting, especially lifting heavy weights, you might be good for a year, 2 years, 3 years, but eventually that is going to catch up with you in some way. So there you have to say technique's underrated, but also people sometimes like to put too much of a weighted proportion on technique too when it comes to lifting. So maybe it depends a little bit on if you're talking from a competitive standpoint or just I'm just a dude that goes to the gym. But I don't know. Tanner, what do you think?
I think it's a little, in the current climate culture, I think it's a little overrated. I think Alan Thrall has had a good video on this before, probably, where he describes the same thing, that sometimes technique is different for different people. Like good technique for someone is different for someone else.
I think with technique, there's not the idea that there's one right technique.
Right.
Like some people like, this is how you do lift X. This is how you do lift Y. Like people do have different body types. Like even my brother and me, we're shaped very different. Our technique is really different for the same lifts. Tanner and I, we're built different too. Our technique, I still think we have good, safe technique, but it's pretty different on the same lifts.
Right. And there's a thing right now, actually, like as we record today, a thing with Squat University, Dr. Aaron Horschig, where it's lifter A, lifter B. Yeah. So what's more impressive, lifter A lifting 650 pounds with subpar technique, or lifter B lifting 500 pounds with perfect technique? And then, he kind of, his haters will say, deload to 0 pounds and do air pistol box squats until, like that's kind of the thing. And that's, and it can go too far both ways, but overall, I guess I'm getting at, I think it's a little overrated because sometimes you've got to roll with what you've got to a certain extent and work on getting stronger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Depending on your goals, of course.
Lift. Yeah. So you're lifting properly and safely. Yes. But after that, there comes a point where it's like, it
doesn't have to be
just like getting that technique perfect. Is that going to add 50 pounds to your squat? Like after you've been lifting for 10 years, I don't know.
I think you guys hit it on the head.
It's a little overrated.
Yeah, you guys hit on the context matters.
Yeah, well, strength trumps technique.
Right.
Most of the time.
When you're stronger, you have better technique. If
that too,
like you said, Tommy, if you're a competitive lifter versus the average person, if you first time walk into a barbell gym and you're talking to me, I'm going to tell you technique's very important. If you deadlift 500 and want to deadlift 600. Technique's probably not the first thing I talk about. It might be the sixth thing I talk about. I'm looking at programming. I'm looking at nutrition. I'm looking at these other things. And that's the same thing with Squat University. Jim and I were going to talk about a whole podcast on drama on it. We probably won't do it. Because I agree is that you could scale it both ways and make an argument. But the truth is that he has literally like 1 million followers, and he's talking to majority of soccer moms. Even though he probably thinks he's talking to athletes, he's not. Because the athletes already know.
And he is a physical therapist. I mean, his job is to help people that are hurt. It's not to make someone into a 1,000-pound squatter. So he's going to be more focused on.
I like Aaron. The issue is he does walk that line where I think he just needs to choose a path as a content creator because his background is weightlifting, and then he does videos with like Martine Lisis and stuff. And so like you have to. Right. Are you talking to soccer mom? Because then her knee is coming in. We might want to fix that because of her Q angle, and when she's picking up her kid, she might have some damage to her knee or something in the long term, something random. But if you're trying to talk to powerlifters and world's strongest man, the 650-pound squatter and he even says slight deviation in knees, that guy can crush 500 perfectly.
Yeah.
No one hits 100, 102% and without a little deviation, and it's about how much deviation happens into that. Yeah, but I hate the little form kids. Shut the fuck up. Go grab your kilos. Get the fuck out of my gym.
My last one in this category, over under buying your own billboard.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's
harshly, severely, very, very underrated.
It's, I mean, why waste money on online ads, social media ads, all of that? Billboards and radio, I think, is where it's at.
That's for emerging markets right now. Yeah. Also, local newspaper.
Local newspaper. Door-to-door, direct postcards. That's the marketing that people want now.
A funny thing about that, though,
and for people that don't know, we do have we're celebrating our second billboard now.
There's still one up in our we're from Western Northeast South Dakota. We still have one up in our town right now.
What the fuck did you just say?
Western Northeast South Dakota. That's where they live.
I don't even
Western
know what that
Northeast
means,
South Dakota.
dude. No, Western?
Well, we want to give people context for where we're at.
I know, but I don't even know if that's a thing. Western North.
Well, we're living proof it's a thing.
So you're on the western side
of Northeast South Dakota.
Of Northeast South Dakota. The same way that we're in the northern part of this of the Central Valley of Northern California.
I get that they're named South Dakota, so that's throwing it off. So we're in the northeast sector of South Dakota, and you're on the western region of that area.
Yep. You
Fuck
go a little
me.
farther west. We're in the central region of.
Granted, throwing in the Western might be a little.
Yeah, that's the
gratuitous.
fuck up. Yeah, that just blew my brain.
It's the extra Western that we might not need, but we need it.
Yeah.
Like it's important.
We don't want people to be confused what part of South Dakota.
You guys need something up there. I've heard there's not a lot going on, so by all means, party on.
So the thing about the billboards, though, certainly could be looked at as a waste of money. But to be like quite frank and honest, as far as our business is concerned, they have been outstanding uses of money, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that.
And it's locally does nothing. No one understands Massenomics in our community at all.
Our moms will drive by and get a laugh out of it. You know, this one has our pictures on it, and we're wearing suits and ties, which also makes absolutely no sense.
Looks like a shitty
do.
real estate agent ad.
Yeah, that's what we're going for.
Yeah,
it's all kind of a joke. And
the quotes alone say they talk funny.
This is a podcast.
This is a podcast. Rave reviews written on the billboard.
Locally, nobody listens to our podcast locally.
Outside of the people that go to the gym.
Right. We already had the 50 people in this town that might listen to our podcast. They already do and have for 5 years. We're not finding anyone there, but just the humor that it's provided through social media has almost been priceless. Like we couldn't pay for content like is valuable with that. I don't know what other way we could come up with a way.
I'm glad to hear that, because now I'm going to write a pitch to Jim so we could do it next.
and granted, billboards in Sacramento may be slightly more expensive.
Yeah, we do have the advantage of living in Western Northeast South Dakota, where the market on billboard pricing, I would assume, is significantly less than.
Maybe we'll get one a
California.
block up from you.
That totally works.
We've got a guy.
All right, I need that. Order the airplanes that drag the signs behind
there
them.
we go.
Yep.
Yeah, I could step out the door right here and throw a rock, and it would land on I-5, which is the principal route between Canada
Mexico,
and
yeah.
Mexico.
Yeah, it's probably not cheap.
Yeah, I don't think it would be that.
I'll find a way.
Cheap. Finally, one that I would like to say that we do this all the time, but we don't. Somebody asked us to do it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Maybe we will. This is FMK, Fuck, Marry, Kill. Okay, so get strong, stay strong, and use your strength.
Using your strength.
Wow, you're really hitting us in the feels with this one.
What that is, for anyone that doesn't know, we did an interview with Bill Kazmaier like 3 years ago at the Arnold, and he
decided to be the hype man for us, but he clearly didn't know what we were.
Our other partner at the time that actually did the interview, he walked up to Bill and said, "Hey, Bill, we're from Massenomics. We'd like to do an interview with you." Bill goes, "That's cool. What do you guys do?" And he's like, "Oh, we got a podcast. We like to teach people about getting strong, staying strong, using your strength, that sort of thing." And Bill goes, "Okay, great." So we start the interview. They interview for almost 10 minutes. At the very end of it, Bill goes, he rattles this 30-second long spiel for Mastonomics. He goes, "Yeah, and I love what you guys are doing." Granted, Bill Kazmaier had never heard of Mastonomics before that day.
That's professional, dude. That's professional.
Yeah,
that's because he's been on ESPN and shit.
Yeah, very professional. At the end of it, he goes, "I love what you guys are doing over there at Mastonomics. You're doing a great job teaching everyone how to get strong, how to stay strong, how to use their strength."
Yeah, thanks for what you do with the podcast and all the rest. Just like he's been the biggest follower, and it's that's a great soundbite, Kaz. Thank you very much.
So that's the opener to our podcast, part of the opener, and which is Kaz made the day on that. So, fuck, marry, kill, get strong, stay strong, use your strength.
I think you gotta marry staying strong, right?
That's fair.
You gotta stay with the strength in the long run. So I think you marry staying strong.
Yeah.
I think it's a conundrum.
It is kind of a little bit.
Because if you don't get strong, you have to get strong.
Well, but you marry, so you just have stay strong.
Some people were born strong.
You fuck getting strong.
I think you just fuck. No, I think you fuck using your strength. You just
Okay.
use your strength. You use it once and move on, and then you kill.
But if you kill getting strong,
it's kind of an oxymoron. That's a tricky one.
I think you have to kill using your strength and just never use it. You just you've got it. You just don't get to use it. And, you fuck getting strong.
Yeah,
Fair.
yeah. No wrong answers, but I think we'd agree with that.
But you guys passed. Congrats.
Well, thank you so much for being on with us to review this film. Where can people find all of Massenomics?
Well, thanks for having us. This was a lot of fun.
I really felt like today we were in really good company.
Oh,
Okay, dude. Don't try to Bill Kazmaier us right now.
Even though what we said could have very well been 50% factual.
Where do they find us? I guess Massenomics and everything.
Yeah, I would say, most importantly, check us out at Massenomics. That's
Instagram.
On Instagram. We have the Massenomics podcast coming out every week for 5 straight years now. We have Massenomics on YouTube. That's the main stuff.
And if you're in Western Northeast South Dakota, you can also find us on our billboard.
There you go.
That's amazing. Yeah, take selfies. I want to see it. I haven't seen it yet.
It's on their Instagram.
I need selfies of people sending it.
Okay.
And also is cool for us to get on here. I know we've had both of you on the Massenomics podcast before, and we've mentioned this, but we started listening to you guys podcasting a long time ago, so it's fun to kind of come full circle and be able to get the opportunity to come on here with you guys.
There is, not to say I'm not excited now, but if you would have told me 2015-ish that I would be on a podcast with you guys, I wouldn't have slept for a week. I would have been jacked out of my mind. So this was still very exciting. I'm really glad we got to do this, guys.
Appreciate it, boys. Thanks for taking the time. And I would like to send a personal invite. There may or may not be the world's strongest man here in Sacramento in June. If you boys want to head west, I don't know if they allow you out of that northwestern conundrums. It sounds like you guys are stuck in a circle when you explain it to me. I feel like a globe is over your city.
It's a dog chasing its
That's
tail.
what it feels like. Yeah, like
you just start on the left side. You just start at 9 o'clock and work your way around the compass.
Yeah,
That's how you do it.
I don't know how that works, but if you're allowed to travel, would love to have you over at 3rd Street. Maybe we could podcast again, hang out. We're going to try to throw a little mini party here, COVIDly safe, and smash weights with some cool people. So if Massenomics wants to head west, let us know.
Awesome.
And thanks for taking the time to chat with us.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give us a rating and review. It will help so much. Share it on Twitter, Instagram. We'll shout it back out. 50% Facts. I am Silent Mike on Instagram with 2Ks, and anywhere you want to find me. We got a new clothing drop probably within 2 or 3 weeks, so stay tuned for teasers on that. 3rd Street Barbell on Instagram.
I am at the Jim McD on all the social medias. You can follow this show whenever we manage to post things about it. 50% Facts, where 50 what facts is percent is a word. That's what it is. Percent is a word.
All our
is just
businesses
numbers.
are like numbers and shit
Yeah.
combined. I don't know. And half our emails are like numbers spelt and half aren't. I'm so confused.
It's we're into the numerology or not. So there we go. And anyway, we'll talk to you next week. And thanks again for being on, guys.